Hey everyone, Ilyasah. Oh my God, this is so exciting to get to talk to you finally. This is something I've wanted to do for a really long time, so I'm so glad we made the connection. We have Khristen Hamilton
Hi.
and she's a climate youth activist doing some really amazing things on the ground for the youth and the climate movement. And we're gonna have a little conversation. So Khristen, I'll let you take it from here, okay?
Yeah. So I just want to start by saying thank you so much for being here, Professor Shabazz. You're such a positive symbol for activism, community organizing, and women's empowerment. And I, as a young Black woman, as myself, and going into the journey of climate organizing, I hope to be in the movement for a very long time. But as you know, for a Black woman, it's pretty challenging. So thank you again for being here and willing to engage in this dialogue with me. So yeah, I'd just like to start to hear a little bit about how you arrived at the place that you're in now with organizing and community involvement. So can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. First, it's such a pleasure to be here. I am such a proponent of our earth and of course humanity. They're extremely important. Humanity first, earth second, although I guess they're interchangeable. My mother, for as long as I can remember, always said, Ilyasah, just as one must drink water, one must give back. So it became a way of life, right? When you love yourself, you love others. When you see something wrong, you want to fix it because you don't want anyone to feel in a way that you don't want to happen to yourself. So it's always been a way of life. When I look at both of my parents, it's how they lived their lives, very selfless. When they saw injustice, they sought to do something about it. And I think when you look at history, we see so much of it. We see so much defensible destruction to our earth and to humanity. And so that was something very important to my father as well as my mother.
Cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your faith and how it sort of intersects with the work that you've done, as well as how being a feminist has intersected with the work that you've done. So how does your Blackness, femininity, and faith sort of inform your approach to the work that you've done?
Well, so I think everyone has a sense of self, right? We want it to be positive because in order to do good work, you have to have a positive outlook. And especially you have to feel that you're worthy of, whatever it is you're doing for others and, for this new generation and so forth. So my Blackness, it's something because I love nature. I love art. There are so many things that I love. And I don't want to say but. There are so many things that I love, and I love humanity. And if I see injustices, historical injustices, right, I want to do something about it. I don't want to see anyone think that they are not worthy, right? I don't want to see anyone with a false sense of inferiority nor a false sense of superiority. And so I do believe in the equality of brotherhood, the equality of sisterhood, this whole universality of people. And so the way I was raised was to understand that we are all brothers and sisters under the fatherhood of God, right? And so I see you as I see me. I have a good sense of myself, a good sense of my identity. I understand the indigenous people. I understand the African continent and the historical contributions made prior to Christopher Columbus. And I understand the indigenous people and the significant contributions made to the world prior to Christopher Columbus. And unfortunately, which impedes, on our educational curriculum, right? And so I'm a professor. Today was my teaching day. And I make sure that my students understand have a good sense of themselves and a good sense of humanity. And when they see anything that would hurt them, that they want to do something about it to ensure the next generation also has the opportunities that we would want for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. And in organizing with so many like young people like I do, you see people of all different faiths. And at the end of the day, like the message that they want to spread as much as possible is like unity and being able to come together to fight for like one big thing as a group. No matter like who you are, what faith you believe in or whatever, like unity and love at the end of the day as well. So sort of like speaking to like compassion and stuff like that. I wanted to talk a little bit about your mom and how she has had an effect and how she taught you about organizing and activism. I think for me, like my mom has taught me definitely like the compassion side to activism and how we have to be more personable when speaking with people about like the things that they have been through and stuff like that. So what is something that your mom has taught you about organizing and activism that your father did not, I guess?
Well, I have to say, what my mother did for her 6 daughters, in spite of seeing her husband, gunned down in front of her, in spite of her home being firebombed a week prior, and they were both a young couple. My mother was still in her late 20s. Her husband was in his late 30s. And you know what? That's trauma. But my mother wanted to make sure that her daughters didn't experience that. And so she became a little overprotective, right? And she made sure that my father's spirit remained a part of our household. So I didn't learn about Malcolm X, the icon, until I went to college, right? But mind you, I had just turned 16. So I learned about my father's humanity. I learned about the things that he loved, that he would be proud of, the things that my sisters and I may have done, whether it's our artwork that she had framed and decorated in our foyer, whatever it was that we did. If it was good, she would say, oh, your father would be so happy, daddy would be proud. If it wasn't, she'd say, daddy would not like that. So she kept him a part of our household, his hat, his shoes. He wore a size 14 shoe, and me being the person that had the largest feet, I would always have his shoes and clonk around in the house with them. So we really grew up thinking that our father was a part of our household, and we didn't suffer from what they say is the dilemma of single parent households. Okay, so you could not have told me that my father wasn't a part of my household. My youngest twin sisters, who were born after my father, was gunned down, they know their father, and you would never know that they never laid eyes on him. So, I give my hat off to my mother, because certainly she was experiencing, personal challenges that we didn't know anything about. But what my mother made sure of is that each of her daughters grew up with a very strong sense of their identity. So we grew up knowing that we were of the African diaspora, therefore we loved people, and learned about the significant contributions of the African diaspora, significant contributions of Islam, and significant contributions of women. And so we grew up with a healthy sense of ourselves. And my father said, when you educate a man, you educate a community. When you educate a girl, you raise a nation, and that a society society is measured by the progress of its women. So, my mother made sure that her girls were prepared. Okay.
Amen to that, I said.
Yeah. That's really funny, because one of my really close friends in college actually has that on like their wall, like that quote on their wall, like if you like educate a girl, you educate a nation. So yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. So in the movement that I'm in, the climate movement, a lot of things that happen in the climate movement is usually like whitewashing of the movement and whitewashing of things that are not supposed to be whitewashed. Like having a movement be led by Black women is like one of the most important things, because we are the most disproportionately affected by any social justice issue. So what do you think has led to whitewashing of social justice movements, not only climate, but as well as the feminist movement and, just other movements in general?
It's really unfortunate. And it's one of the reasons, again, why I went into education. I was a biology major. I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor for children, right? I thought I wanted to be an obstetrician, and that didn't happen. And, you know, I started looking at our educational curriculum and realizing, my goodness, you know, how many children were suffering because they were miseducated. And I think it's just absolutely unfortunate because it does a disservice, especially to us as Americans, right? Because here we are in the greatest country with just loads of diversity. And we are so blessed, right? That we get to experience people from so many different nations, from so many different parts of the world, coming together, living together with all these different cultures, right? And what a honor, joy, privilege, and benefit to learn from all of these different people. And so it's such a disservice that we know that civilization began in Africa. We know that, right? And why we don't continue to learn the truths in our history, you know, is dumbfounding, right? It's unfortunate. And, you know, again, it creates these distractions. It creates these divisions. Toni Mason said something like she spent her entire life proving that all of these things that were said about Blacks, all these things that were said about women, she trying to prove that it was wrong. But then she found herself as an older woman. She never was able to participate in her joys and her passions, and her life was over. So, you know, I think it's unfortunate. So I think, you know, especially during this time, we have an opportunity to be quiet, to sit still, and to just listen, right? To observe. And then when this is all over and we're able to go back outside and reach out and touch people, right? We are with a whole new movement. We're fortified. We've got a new agenda, and we're very focused in all of the things that we want to accomplish, that we are strategic, we have a checklist, and we make sure that we're with like-minded people to accomplish the goals that we need to accomplish. So everyone has the same opportunities, not just a small handful that will determine, you know, how we're going to live our lives.
I think that's very powerful. We really want to, like, part of why we're doing the stream is we want to rise from the ashes of this moment and come out of it with new knowledge to create a new version of our future. Like we've got to kind of capitalize on this moment to get, like you said, get still and be quiet and figure out how we navigate this and imagine a new normal.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's actually our time. That was so fast.
Yay!
Incredible. Thank you.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Even the gentleman up there.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely awesome, each of you. Thank you so much.